you know, like I mentioned at the start of the program, this conversation that we're about to have is not one that we have every day. It's about building a legacy, building wealth that you can pass on to the next generation. But I'd say that it's not as outlandish as the weather that we've had so far in 2021. It's something that you can build towards. That's certainly what my guest believes. PV Subramaniam, Chief Executive Officer of Subramani.com. Thank you so much for taking the time. Subra, just to kickstart this conversation, in your experience, are people too conservative about their prospects? They think that they're just lay people, they're not going to be able to build much. Is the issue more internal than in terms of what they can actually achieve?
Absolutely, Alex. So people my age, say 55 and above, will continue to call themselves middle class even though they'll have ESOP worth 25 crores and annual bonuses of 5 crores. You know, they constantly keep saying, oh, we are middle class people. They're not middle class. They're rich. They're super rich, right? In a country where the average per capita income is so low. I don't know why this mindset, but most of them can easily create a huge legacy and leave for their children. But they don't think in those terms. They need to make them think in that, that they can create wealth for their kids over a long period of time. Remember, today, if you are seeing Kumar Mangalam Birla so rich, it is just 182 years of compounding. You know, people will say, oh, 182 years is too far away, but you can make a chart, right? So that is my very peeve, that people don't push themselves enough to create a legacy. What is the point in saying, I will leave something for my kids, but not much? They don't make any attempt.
Okay, that's fair. But my point is, and as a counter argument to what you're saying, Subra, just for the sake of argument, is that as you mentioned, the per capita income in this country is actually quite low, and even the people that are tuning in to this program, who are possibly much better off than quite a few other people here in India, they're fending for themselves, they're taking care of their immediate requirements, and they may not necessarily have enough to create the kind of wealth that you're talking about. 25 crores is something that maybe the average Indian will never see. What do you say in terms of the average middle class? And here I'm talking about the actual definition of the middle class individual.
No, but Alex, my argument is very simple. I'm saying when the kid is born in your house, you start doing a 1,000 rupee SIP or a 2,000 rupee SIP or a 3,000 rupee SIP and jump it by 5% every year. Tell me you can't do it. There are so many people who can do it. Yes, there are many people who can't do it, but I'm sure there are many people who can do it. So you start an SIP for the kid the day the kid is born. The day the kid turns 18, you take that money and put it into a retirement fund. By the time the kid is 65, you're going to talk about a 3-digit figure in crores. That's not bad at all. So at least make a start, jump it up by 5-10% every year. Yes, once in a while you may not be able to do it, but then don't withdraw the money. Just let it grow. And it can grow to a sensationally big number. Let's not talk about 1,000 crores, but even if you can get to 100 crores, that's not bad, right?
It certainly isn't. In a sense, then, do you think that people need to broaden their time frames even beyond what they're thinking right now? So, for example,
yes.
I think because of conversations, Subra, that we've had on this program, where you're saying that we're trying to galvanize people in their early 20s to start investing, so that
yes.
when they reach the age of 60, they have a sizable corpus and they have absolutely no worries. We're talking about expanding this to talk about, say, 120 years or 150
yes.
years. Is
yes.
that the requirement? Should they set those kind of goals, or is it too outlandish?
No, don't set yourself some goal which will put pressure on you. But let's say there is somebody who has a kid. The kid is now 7 months old or 8 months old. Start an SIP today. Take money from maybe your father or your grandfather or somebody who's alive. So a great grandfather or a grandfather who's alive, you give him this idea, say, look, why don't you put away 5 lakhs in the name of this kid in XYZ children's plan? So you put away 5 lakhs and you start doing 1000 rupee SIP or whatever, 5 lakhs, 50,000, 5,000, whatever you can afford. But make the start. For example, there is a new AMC, there is an AMC which is PGIM, which is coming out with a retirement plan where the entry age is 0. What can be a better gift to your child or to your grandchild than a pension plan? So open the pension plan for the kid when the kid is 0 and tell the kid you can touch it when you're 60. So you're talking of a 60 years of compounding. That is it. So make that start. Yes, maybe after the kid is 30 years of age, he'll start contributing well to that fund. Or he may not contribute after his age of 40, or he may contribute very heavily from the age of 50 to the age of 60. Whatever it is, you at least start and leave it for him. Let him decide that he will touch it only when he is 60. Let him, if he contributes, great. If he doesn't contribute, even then it will keep growing, right? So power of compounding over 60 years. So whether it is the Birlas who have had power of compounding over 182 years or the Vardias who have got 260 years of compounding, it is always the power of N. It is not the power of R. What rate of return you get is not important. How long you leave it untouched is important.
Absolutely. And these are very powerful concepts, Subra, that you're talking about. The other aspect, and this is certainly something that you can see across the globe. I've heard this said also, and this is said, I think, for every generation that sees a new generation. And I think also, Subra, you'll agree with me that the gap between generations is actually narrowing significantly. So each generation looks at the next generation and says, oh, they're nothing like us. It has been said in the past that free money, as it is called, makes people lazy. Is that the wrong mindset to have, according to you?
See, if you're creating wealth over long periods of time, you have to think that children will use that wealth very sensibly. So whether it is Jamshedji Tata or Ghanshyam Das Birla, which is GD Birla, if they had thought, then they would have finished their wealth in their lifetime. They didn't think so. They did not think of their business as something which was getting extinct. They thought they will die, but they knew that the business will continue. For somebody like GD Birla, it is the 5th generation of Birla who is running it, and he's running it well. Maybe he's as good, or if not better, or he's not too great. It doesn't matter, but he is running it, right? So only wealth has been created over 5-6 generations. So which is the way to look at it. Children don't get spoiled because you have given them too much money. Children get spoiled because they are spoiled. Money does not, money is not the cause of all evil, right? So children with more money also get spoiled. So children with a lot of money take to drugs, and children from hutments and jhopatpattis also take to drugs. It has nothing to do with money. So you have to give the child good education, etc., etc. Yes, he could go get spoiled, but then you have to create the wealth-making machine. What if the 4th generation or 5th generation makes it really big and can afford to take big bets? That is what you're trying to give them, right?
Absolutely. The other question is, how do you inculcate that? Because, and this is obviously my question to you as an educator, or rather, my question to you so that you can tell me what you would say as an educator, because I know that you speak to a lot of people. And if you're, for example, speaking to parents right now who are tuned in, what would you tell them? How do you start teaching their kids how to be, say, responsible without pushing them away?
The best thing is when you start a fund for a child like this, you keep showing the child monthly or quarterly statements and see this, they are creating this wealth for you. However, when the wealth becomes very big by the time you're 60, 65, decide to take a portion of it and leave the remaining for the next generation. This can be taught right from the day the kid is born, so the kid understands that he is only responsible for holding it in transit for 60 years. After that, his son or his daughter is going to get it. That is, typically how you explain is to take the kid to a garden or a mangrove and say, these trees were not planted yesterday. These were planted 20, 30, 40 years ago. And today it is giving us fruit. And it is giving us so much fruit that we don't really mind if somebody comes and takes a bucket full. We have so much. We have 1,000 trees, which is each bearing 1,000 fruits. So this is the kind of number which we have. So if you lose 30, 40 fruits, it doesn't matter, right? So you become almost indifferent to the number of mangoes which are there. Typically, you can give this example in Himachal Pradesh of apples being there. People are indifferent. Apples, you'll find them lying here and there because people have so much of excess of it, right? So that is what you do, that you create that happy mindset and a surplus mindset so that the kid looks at this and says, okay, we are in the process of creating wealth. Use these words, use this terminology, show the child the power of compounding. Tell him, look, we have put only 24,000 rupees over 2 years, but the market has done so well that it is worth 30,000. It will keep growing. So show them how much you have put, how much it has grown, what is the power of compounding. And after 7-8 years, the returns that you get will be so high that the amount you put will be very small compared to the amount to which it is growing, because the power of compounding will kick in and the total number of units is high, and therefore, so the child should see the wealth creation process. He'll start enjoying it and owning it up. So he or she will then want to do it more, right? So you then tell the child, okay, you want to buy a new shoe, can we remove money from here? Believe it or not, the child says, no, 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 not from there. You remove from your money, right? So you have taught the kid to be possessive about his money, which is a fantastic lesson to teach. And how better than to have investments in your kid's name?
And this is my last question to you, Subra. I'm sure that you interact with a lot of people. One of the criticisms that is leveled against, and I hesitate to say this, but it is actually a criticism that is made to Indians in general. That may not necessarily be the case. Let me qualify that. That the entrepreneurial mindset is not as strong as it is in certain other cultures. Is this a prerequisite, would you say, the ability to build wealth and to hand it over to the next generation and say that you have this support, and therefore giving them that confidence that they can actually take something that they would not normally have attempted?
Yes. Especially if you want your child to have a career which is very different. Say you have a 18-year-old son who says, I want to have a career as a football coach. And I want to go to Singapore, learn to play football, and then I want to make football my career. Then the kid will have this backup saying, okay, if he does not make any money for next 5 years, 6 years, it doesn't matter. This money is there for backing up. We are very scared. We will save 2 crores and say, go to an Ivy League school and study. But if your kid says, I want to learn football, or I want to do photography, or I want to learn how to cook or how to design hair, we will say, no, my God, no. That's not allowed. You have to go to Harvard, you go to Stanford. We are very, very academically obsessed with our money, and we will use our money to buy our child's loyalty. We'll say, I'll pay 2 crores if you get my admission into Harvard, but I won't pay 20 lakhs if you get admission into a football school. Or if your kid wants to set up a business, we are very, very scared. We are happy to spend money on education, but not on business. That's how we are, but certain communities are changing. And I think when you're surplus, when you have your stomach is full over a couple of generations, you will also develop the gut. The earlier generation may not have had guts. So, if somebody has seen poverty, somebody has not been able to eat 2 square meals a day, they will be a little scared even of their children or grandchildren taking this. So can't blame them, but at least it's time that we now shed those shackles and start thinking entrepreneurially. Whatever, in a small way, but let's start thinking in entrepreneurial ways. And for that, this money could act as a good corpus.
And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that even a 2,000 rupee SIP over an incremented, of course, with that 5% increase over a long period can make a huge difference. Subra, do stay with us. While this conversation has been incredibly enlightening, I also have a couple of questions that have been sent to us by our viewers that I'd like to take up with you, but we'll do that after this short break. Do stay tuned, viewers.
Yeah.
Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show, and we're in conversation with Mr. P.V. Subramaniam, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Subramani.com. And Subra, we've got a couple of questions for you. The first one is from Santu Mandal from West Bengal. He says that he's 32 years old and he's got an annual income of, I think his monthly income is 73,900. His NPS, he's saying that he can put 50,000 rupees in NPS, but he does not think that it is a requirement for him. He is wondering whether to do so because of the additional exemption that he can claim from the taxable income at the end of the year. He's made investments for his retirement through the UTI Nifty Index Fund. He's wondering whether he should put money into the NPS. What should he do? What should his approach be?
Why not? Why not put 50,000 into NPS? Because if you are having that money which is lying in a savings bank account or not really, you don't need it for any other goals, you might as well put it for your retirement, because retirement could happen little abruptly. You think you're going to retire at 60, it may happen at 57. So last 3 years contribution could vanish. So any of those nasty surprises could happen. So yes, putting money in NPS makes sense for a person to save, just to save tax. Yes, it makes sense. He should be putting.
Okay, but I want to talk about this a little bit more. If we're talking about 50,000 rupees, I think what he's trying to get at, Subra, is as an alternative to what he's already doing. If he has that surplus and if he can put it into, say, the Nifty 50 index fund over a long period of time, should he do that instead of the NPS?
See, I think 50,000 is what gets tax exemption in NPS. So to that extent, let him put it in NPS. With all the others, you can keep your options open. Like if you want your ATC benefit, you can put it in ELSS, you can put it in PPF, you can put it into all those things, where again you have the option of what you want to do at a later stage. Suppose you are putting in a, let's say in a fund which is 50,000 per annum, and that is for an ATC. Let us say it is an ELSS fund. 10 years later, if he needs money, that money will be accessible to him. Whereas in NPS, especially if he puts in the first tier 1, he will be able to access it only when he retires. So what is the big fun in locking your money when you have a choice of not having? So I would put 50,000 in ELSS, I would put 50,000 in PPF, and I would put 50,000 in NPS. This makes more sense because my money is spread across more assets. 50,000 is going into gilt, and 50,000 out of the 50,000, I can put some portion in debt funds in under the NPS. Whereas the 50,000 in your ELSS, which is in equity fund, ELSS, which is an equity fund, is fully going into equity. So you can have this combination. Why would you want to put everything under one fund manager when you have a choice of having 3 fund managers? The maximum you can put is 1.5 lakhs under NPS, but you might don't have to put that much. I think 50,000 is okay. The balance you put ATC, which means you could be putting in a ELSS or PPF.
So the next question is from Mr. Miten Modi, and I think that a lot of people have this confusion in terms of where the deduction can be claimed for NPS. He's wondering whether he can put 2 lakh and count 1.5 lakh as a deduction from ATC and 50,000 as a deduction from ATCCD. I believe that it's not included in ATC, right? You can only claim it in ATCCD. So if that is the case, what should he do?
Alex, I'm assuming, even assume for a minute that it is included. You have a choice of where to put that 1.5 lakhs, right? Why would you compulsorily go and put it into NPS? Because NPS is not very tax efficient, because in the end, even the money that is coming back to you as a pension, it includes some of the principal and some of the capital, and everything is taxed at the maximum marginal, at your marginal rate. Why would you do that? I would rather put into 2-3 other options, right? So whether I pay my child's school fees, or whether it is an EMI, or whether it is PPF or National Savings Certificate, or whatever I want to buy, I get ATC benefit for all of that. I might as well do that, right? I might as well put 50,000 in ELSS, 50,000 here, and maybe 1 lakh in NPS, where you're going to get only 50,000 benefit, right? Or rather, yeah, another 50,000 you will get under ATC, and 50,000 you will get exclusively for NPS. So the NPS portion you stick to NPS. So 50,000 you put it in NPS. With the others you have a choice. You put it into say 2-3 funds. You do a 15,000 rupee per month SIP, and that is also going to work, right? Every year the same ELSS fund won't do well. So you pick up top 2-3 funds and start allocating to that. Don't reduce your options. Use the options which the country has given you.
A very fair point. I'm going to club these two questions and add another one, Subra, if you'll allow me. I think these questions are being asked very specifically in terms of building a retirement corpus. With that in mind, and this is a classic question really, should one really pay so much attention to the tax aspect of it, or should one focus entirely on building that corpus, and therefore the most efficient product in that sense would be equity, right? So is that the approach that one should have and not really worry too much about the tax aspect of it?
Absolutely, especially if you're in your 20s or 30s. You're talking of 30 years later, what will be the taxation in this country? Who has a clue? None of us have a clue. We don't even know what tomorrow can come from the Ministry of Finance. So 30 years later, kya hoga? It's very difficult to say. Don't bother. Just go on creating your net worth, creating your corpus. At some stage, maybe at 45, 48, 50, you may desire to retire because the markets have done well. And that time you take a call. Don't worry about taxation at this stage. However, if you are a person who is investing 5-6 lakhs, then you might as well take advantage of ATC and NPS and everything. No, I mean, along the way, wo milta hai to kya bura hai? But if that is the only investment you're doing, make sure that it is the most efficient form of investing. And when you're investing for creating wealth, don't bother about taxation. Don't bother about tax. If you have done well and suddenly you find equity markets have given fabulous returns and you want to remove money, again, don't think about taxation and then find that the whole thing has got dissipated. So worrying about taxation doesn't make sense. But as far as possible, you should try to minimize taxation. But don't worry too much about it. Think, is it a good investment in the long run? If is it a good investment, will I do this investment even if the tax rebates are withdrawn? If the answer is yes, just go ahead.
I think that's a perfect end to the conversation that we've had today. Subra, thank you so much for taking the time and for answering those questions also that our viewers had. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
My pleasure. Thanks, Alex. Thank you.